How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and after 1,757 days in play, UK World 5 has come to an end. I kind of figured this would be a difficult video to make because I don't know what the proper send-off is for essentially 5 years of my life and everybody else who played the world as well. How can you condense that down into one video and do it justice? I don't think that I am one who's up to the task, but I do think that the players who invested the most time should get the opportunity to speak, because really this is their moment, not necessarily mine. I have been but a minor player in all the politics in World 5. I have not dedicated nearly the amount of time to the game that these players have, and I think that you should share in their excitement at bringing some closure to this saga that has been almost a half a decade in the making. I know some people might not be able to fully appreciate the scope of that, but 5 years is a considerable amount of time, and like I said, I don't think that I can do it justice in one video about Stronghold Kingdoms, but I'm going to do what I think is only fair. Make sure that the people who are there during the end of the age are the ones who are with you now. Explain the end of the age from their perspective.
Okay guys, we need to check whether Popeye is in the faction now. But Popeye is
male Popeye, told him it's house 11.
He's in house 11, yes? Can anyone check the glory screen again?
Yeah, it's all good. House 1 have added another 1,000 glory, but they're still in 6th place.
My game is not logging in. Come on.
Shall we do the countdown?
Right, I need to my game, guys. My game's stuck. Alright guys, so I'm on my screen now.
Let's do the countdown.
9,
8,
7, 6, 5,
5,
4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
lift off.
Did you do it, Doc?
He's only kidding.
Yeah, give me 1 minute.
False alarm. Nobody ring
You know all
you.
that nice stuff I said about Doc before, him being a great leader? Yeah, he's not a great leader.
Alright, okay, so got the phone. She's out of the room. As she comes into the room, and we'll do the countdown again.
Okay.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
It actually asks you, are you sure?
No, we're not. Yeah, no. 9, 8.
Done. Awesome.
Nothing's happening.
Yeah, reload.
That's
Reload.
No, don't log in. Just send a scout something. What's happening?
Logging in. World's done.
Okay, it's done, beta. It's finished. Don't you see?
It's done.
Yeah, cause it's done. It's finished.
Yes, it's done.
Finally.
Well done, guys.
Well done. Congratulations, Doc, and everyone else.
Special thanks to Doc.
Fuck it.
Good game.
Take a screenshot of this all, everybody.
Oh my god, save your World 5 when you end over here. It's World 5, so everything is blowing away.
Yeah, it's done. World 5 is ended now.
Now we can take a break. It was awesome.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. After, what, 6 years now?
I've done the proclamation as well.
Fuck you.
Who's got the little kid in the background?
Great proclamation.
Yeah, the kids are sitting next to us.
Yeah, for the first time, Doc uses.
This is a historical moment, Doc. Make sure they remember this.
Papa, go back on it. Go back.
Beta, don't touch my screen.
Papa, go back on the game. No. Go on World 6.
So that's what pressing the button to end the final age looks like. Firefly was never big on ceremony, where there was no real celebration screen that made it unique from anybody else's view of the game. And I think that is a lost opportunity. It was an opportunity for them to do something a little bit special, because the player who most likely pressed it had earned it. And as is par for the course pretty much at this point for Stronghold Kingdoms, the result was, dare I say it, mediocre. I don't think that can detract from the overall impact that these players had on the world in that time, in those 5 years they invested in it. So I did speak with the House Marshal of House 19 before the world ended, and he told me that it was his philosophy, I guess you could call it that, the players, be they enemies or friends, it didn't matter, he said, whether or not they had fought previously in other ages, in other houses, but that the players who were there at the beginning of the world and who stuck with the world through all this time should be the ones to ultimately claim the prizes and have their names inducted into the Hall of Fame for the game that Firefly hosts. And I think that was very gracious of him. And I, like times before, I've said that it was a good idea to close the world. I'm not exactly sure how much of his story he actually wanted me to share. I asked him to maybe create a list of topics that I should touch on in this video, but in the end, it was an hour or so conversation that we had just before the world ended, and he explained to me, like I said, his philosophy on some of these things, why exactly he ended the world. And I think, as many people know, there was really never a more suiting time to end it. If it was not ended now, the world would continue to drag on until more and more players left it, players who had been with it for those 5 years, players who, in all fairness, are the ones who deserved the Final Age prizes. And if you allow a world to drag on like that, it is guaranteed that more people will drop. So if you want to fairly reward the people who have, in all honesty, put in the time and effort to have it, it is beneficial to end the server as soon as possible. And this sort of ties into a sentiment that I have often heard other players at the top express, and that is that Stronghold Kingdoms, it requires a lot from you. It requires a lot of time and attention from your day-to-day life. And I think a lot of people at the top oftentimes don't make it all the way through to the end of an age because they're simply burnt out. They don't have it anymore. Like 5 years is a very long time to maintain your presence as definitely a military presence in a world. I mean, this is the people who are at the top, they have families and everything. They're not just somebody on unemployment in low-income housing or something. They actually have quite a life. They have children, and these are things that they couldn't dedicate their time to because they were invested in the world and in maintaining their presence in the world, because there are people who are gunning for them to bring them down. Though, of course, the competition lessens as the world drags on. I'm not going to make any bones about it. The world is nowhere near as competitive in the Final Age or in the Sixth Age as it was in the first couple of ages. But it is still something that you have to do daily, because it is quite easy for just a couple of players to completely run you over in the game if you're not around to maintain yourself, especially if you are in one of the top houses. You are a very desirable target. So I think the House Marshal, Doc, did right by ending the world. I'm glad to see that the players who invested the most amount of time in the world were the ones he selected to get the prizes and to be on the leaderboard. I personally did not request to be on the leaderboard because I really have not fought in the world. I was mostly a farmer throughout those 5 years, because it is a hard game to play at the top, to be active in militarily. You have to dedicate a good deal of your life to it, and that was not for me. I chose another route. I wanted to help other players become good at the game. And you might think that's a little bit ironic, because how can I help others when I'm not that good at it myself? Well, I think it is largely because I do my best to source information and knowledge from other players who are better than me, and do my best to articulate that knowledge and present it in a format that is understandable by the average player. So in addition to this Final Age video, there will be in the next week another video about the actual attack reports from the tower castles. So as you're aware, if you played any world in the Final Age, the game spawns down these tower castles throughout various parishes. They're randomly spawned, and players need to capture them in order to have access to the end game button, the end the world button. You have to capture all of them on the map at the very beginning of the Final Age. There are a total of 150 of them. All of them use different kinds of designs, but they're not exclusive to each one of them. But there are various different designs that we haven't seen before in the world, in these worlds anyway. And rather than include all of those reports in this video, I'm planning on doing another video next week that will be showcasing all of the various attack reports that were forwarded to me by players who attacked these towers. So anything that would relate to those reports, I will be covering in that video and not in this one. This one, I think, is dedicated solely to the players of World 5. I think it's safe to say that Stronghold Kingdoms does have an effect on your life, but I think it is, aside from the variability for it, to strip your life of any downtime, of any fun, the stress that is associated with it when you're at war. I think it also builds character in that way, and it helps you understand the more diplomatic side to the world and how negotiations happen. It is a big stage, really, for everybody who is interested in politics and how politics work to a small scale extent. It's a political simulator in a way, because at the end of the day, the politics matter more than the actual fighters. The politicians are the ones who send the fighters to war, much like in real life, right? There are parallels to be drawn there, and I don't want to be overly grandiose about it, but at the same time, I want to do it justice. I want to do that time justice, and that's going to be difficult, and that was difficult, and I don't know if I really lived up to my own expectations here. We'll see. If you are somebody who played World 5, let me know what you thought about the end of the age in the comment section below. Did you play it casually? Did you play it from day one? Or were you a latecomer? Were you just there for the prizes? But anyway, thank you very much for watching, as always, and I hope to see you next time. P.S. Doc wanted me to draw attention to the fact that he managed to amass over 100 million gold in the capital of London for the Final Age.